Over the last couple of days, some crazy things have happened. One of those things is Vitalik Buterin from Ethereum basically showing remorse for Solana, and the community didn't take it up nicely because they're basically stating that this man is a snake. Why, you might ask? Well, we'll be covering that in this video. But also, something massive is happening over in Korea. Now, everybody that's watching this that knows Korean is already reading this thinking, oh, wow. For all you non-Korean speaking folk, here you can see a little bit more about it. Or actually, we could just read the article. It makes things easier. South Korea approves crypto bill to protect investors. Goes into effect in about a year from now. Now, at the same time, something pretty interesting are Mr. Logan Paul. A lot of you guys might not know him. He's a very famous, entertainer, YouTuber, whatever you want to call it. He basically had a crypto scam, a little rug pull of sorts, and he said he's going to pay everybody back, but he's not going to be doing that, and there's millions upon millions of eyes on him, so that is an interesting update. And then a little bit more about the laws and things like that. So more cool stuff will come as well. If you've not done it yet, well, make sure you press that like button on this video because, why not? Doesn't hurt you, helps me out. And I always like seeing how many people like the video, Step number 1. So what happened with Ethereum? I think I don't have to introduce you to the idea that Ethereum got some very privileged situation, or we could call it treatment, by the United States SEC. So when Vitalik was basically throwing up, hey, haha, things are nice. So the guy, or the co-founder of Paradigm, which by the way has turned really nice on crypto yet again, they are throwing a little bit of a 180. People on the news websites are basically saying that Paradigm has turned bullish on crypto again. Anyway, Vitalik, after Matt Huang, the co-founder, asked, how are you feeling today about the US policy approach to crypto? He said, well, the one comment I'll make is that I feel bad that Solana and other projects are getting hit this way. They don't deserve it. And if Ethereum ends up winning through all other blockchains getting kicked off exchanges, that's not an honorable way to win. And in the long term, probably isn't even a victory. This is especially true since the real competition is not other chains. It's the rapidly expanding centralized world that is imposing itself on us as we speak. I wish all honorable projects a fair outcome in this whole situation. And now that is extremely funny coming from him. Pseudo coming in with a based because it's an interesting one. I mean, DAI came out rather quickly to state, don't be fooled. Buterin knew the plan to create a monopoly for Ethereum, and we've got the receipts for that as well. Part of what we're referring to here is the William Himon speech, and every single part of the discussion that went into that. He's showing here, we have a call with Buterin later this week to confirm our understanding of how the Ethereum Foundation operates. And another point is his 180 on Ripple. Again, if you don't remember, Vitalik, I'm not sure if he was an intern at Ripple or tried to work at Ripple, one of those parts. And in the past, this is 10 years ago, I believe, he said, what Ripple has accomplished is impressive. With Ripple, we have a way of sending, receiving, and holding any currency, not just one specific cryptocurrency, in a decentralized way. And then later on, just a couple years ago, he all of a sudden switched up completely on him, potentially because he got pressured from the higher-ups. I do not know. And I think the reason you can't comment is quite obvious because, the people were, the people were pretty one-sided. I love this video. People were pretty one-sided on this. Now, also this man right here who just posted another picture with Brad Garlinghouse, Michael Arrington of Arrington XRP Capital as well, I believe they've got. Just said as well, what an amazing human. Somebody pointed out, hey, decentralization, huh? Where Vitalik says, okay, you guys can stop trading, talking about the market manipulation. And then Michael Arrington says, fair, and some stuff I can't see. But I wonder if he's sarcastic about it because his comments here are just rather funny. I don't know what else to make of it. Anyway, now I don't want to dive into this one too deep because I can spend too much time on these things. Speaking of fighting back, Coinbase has accelerated the timeline in its case by filing an early answer to the SEC's complaint. We know that. So if you are considering joining John Dean's class of Coinbase account holders, you should sign up right freaking now, and the form is pinned on John's page. This is referring to the idea of Scott Melker, whom said, if we don't fight back now, it's possible that Americans will be left with only Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash to trade and on exchanges solely run by Wall Street. Because honestly, that's the direction that it's going. And John Dean now says, we have over 2,000 people who do not want the SEC to stand up in court and pretend to protect us. And we don't want Coinbase speaking on our behalf either. So that's again where John Dean and the people join on in, like done with the XRP case, where they basically state, hey, we're the holders of the cryptos which you allege to be securities. We do not agree with either of you two because the SEC is not protecting us and Coinbase is not adequately protecting us. A good argument is the idea that Gary Gensler, when meeting with, or investigating, I guess, when meeting with Sam Bankman-Fried, should have probably had a little bell swinging and he could have properly protected the investors. But, whenever it comes to real scams, they see through it. But when it comes to actual proper investment chances for the people, they're like, no, let's take this down. Anyway, with regards to Korea, South Korea approves crypto bill to protect investors, goes into effect in 1 year. Yeah, and checking out the website, that's exactly that. They're saying, hey, this stuff is growing rapidly, and they're going to be going, negative, obviously, against undisclosed material information, market price manipulation, illegal transactions, and things of that nature. But they say that this asset class has not existed before, and as the 2030 generation is recognized as an investment target, the virtual asset market at home and abroad is growing significantly, and so they have to make sure the rules are proper for it, which is opposite to the SEC. The only negative thing you might say is that all the data from exchanges have to be given over to the Bank of Korea, but I personally think this comes along with the territory of crypto regulation, that some countries will want to get all the user information. And again, what I always like to argue is, if you don't like them having your info, self-custody, don't use exchanges. To continue on, because that part was pretty obvious, I'd like to say. I don't think anybody is really in the middle here talking about where exactly Korea stands. They're bullish on crypto. They just want to make sure nobody gets scammed, which is fine. Logan Paul under fire. Crypto Zoo NFT buyers are still waiting for refunds 6 months later. So yeah, he basically said 6 months ago, going to give people their money back. I think he tried to put up like $1.8 million or something like that. And then later on, he basically ignored everybody and didn't talk about it because, well, he's so famous that I don't think it really matters. He could just go on and nothing changes. Paul has not paid back his victims. He hasn't talked about it since he first announced he was going to pay them back. And what's worst of all, he doesn't seem to have a plan in place to refund anyone. Just wanted to quickly make that clear, because I also don't stand by this idea of you scam everybody, people call you out for it, you're saying you're going to pay them back, and then you don't pay them back. Yeah, that doesn't run well. I guess in hindsight, what he could have done is say, hey, like he stated before, because I've been following the story, it was just people that were involved that scam people. It's not me because he doesn't need the money. So there's not too much to be done. Sue these people, please. Get your money from them. But there's not much I can do. I can help you with the investigation, but that's about it. I think I would have found it fair if he did not want to put up $2 million of his own money to refund people that were harmed indirectly because of him, but not fully directly because he stole money. It's because people he worked with. I could have, for some perspective, understood. But now that he said, you know what, I'm going to put $2 million forth to pay people back and then not do it, that's a douchey move. And one story I just wanted to quickly put out there, just because of how crazy it is. JP Morgan Chase refuses to reimburse a customer after imposter walks into a bank with a fake ID, walks out with $30,000. Nothing to do with crypto. Just find it crazy that he's trying to get his money back from everywhere because a man with a false ID and an incorrect social security number walked into a branch and convinced the guys to give him money. I find it strange that he cannot get his money back. He spent a year fighting already over it. What? How does the world work, right? Sometimes the world just never ceases to surprise me. Really, that's crazy. Anyway, SEC versus Bittrex. Apparently, Bittrex went into bankruptcy only on the U.S. arm. The Bittrex Global is actually continuing on. And apparently, they're trying to get the SEC case shut down. And they're joining the ranks of the XRP and the other cryptos that were being alleged to be securities. And they're basically saying, hey, dismiss this because crypto assets trading on the secondary markets are not securities. And the SEC lacks authority in this area under the major questions doctrine. The SEC has failed to provide fair notice of its claims in violation of due process, and the arguments are all expertly articulated. But why is the SEC suing Bittrex at all for failing to register as a securities exchange after it already exited the U.S. market? Now, one reason Bittrex may have decided to exit the U.S. market could be that the SEC subjected the company to a 6-year-long investigation. After 6 years of investigating, the SEC's complaint does not allege any fraud or customer harm at Bittrex. Inspector Jevret would be proud. I have one question. Why are our tax dollars being spent on this case? Maybe some congressional oversight in order? Well, I think for almost any one of these cases. Here's the motion to dismiss on behalf of Bittrex US and Shihara But the idea here is pretty clear. It's strange that the SEC is going after these guys when they've already left the United States and there was never any fraud and they've been investigating them for 6 years. It's also strange, obviously, that they're going after them at all because, they don't have the authority, nor was there proper fair notice, I'd say, again, nor is the allegation actually correct because crypto assets on the secondary market are not securities, but hey, that's their opinion. Another point that I thought was quite interesting was Clayton had an interview quite recently, right? I think last week or so, where he basically said that people should look deeper into Gary Gensler because if he is basically suing, if his idea, his philosophy is, if we're not losing cases, we aren't suing enough businesses, it's an abuse of power. That's what Jay Clayton basically went after, the ex-SEC chairman. It was interesting to me that the people asking him questions in the interview were so loose about it. Because if you have been keeping yourself up to date with the whole ETHgate, Jay Clayton, William Hinman, SEC situation, you'd probably know and find out that there was a lot of shady stuff that happened over there. And one of those things that people are arguing is that he's getting away with it all because nobody dares to ask questions. Remember Congress. People asked Gary Gensler questions, but they were all wacky. None of them really got an answer. Some people allege things, but there was never really an answer. If somebody asks yes or no, he just says, well, you get nowhere. Jay Clayton, vice versa. There was a Congress hearing a couple years ago, I believe it was already, or maybe last year. Don't remember exactly when, but the same thing applied. People didn't ask the real question, but even if they tried to ask something, it was like, they answer. And here we go yet again. They didn't ask him any single one question that was really important, a real question. But I guess if they didn't put up the questions up front, he probably wouldn't have come on. And so he agreed to whatever they were supposed to ask him. And he wanted to get some clicks or whatever. But really, if you start to look, and I don't want to read everything here because I've done it too many times, but if you really read into all the allegations, it's crazy, so crazy to me that none of these guys at Squawk Box or whatever really try to dig deeper into it, right? It's so crazy. I thought CNBC was also there for the juice and whatever, but no, apparently they're just there to fabricate some sort of crazy story instead of going deep into the actual facts. And then one thing I should also explain here, apparently Poly Network is being attacked. It says right here it was attacked again. Hackers minted a lot of assets. Hackers have sold 94 billion SHIB, 360 ETH, 500 million Cook, 16 additional ETH, and wait, what? I'm not sure why he says ETH there twice. And 15 million R Fuel for 27 ETH. Oh, I see here. There we go. 500 million Cook for 16 ETH. And then 50 million R Fuel for 27 ETH. So, okay. 94 billion SHIB, 495 million Cook, and 50 million R Fuel for about, let's say, 400 Ethereum. Also, Meta's DAO tweeted that there is no sell liquidity available for newly minted BNB and BUSD on Metis, but apparently CZ came into state. It does not affect Binance users, though. We do not support deposits from this network. Our security team is assisting them to help with the investigations, though. So that is always good from Mr. CZ at Binance. I always appreciate them for keeping things safe in the crypto space. And yeah, this really sticks with me, guys. I can sit here thinking about these theories for hours and hours and hours. Clayton's family gets millions of dollars in annual dividends from WMB Holdings. To receive $4 million in dividends is equivalent to only $200 million in stock. They pay 2%. Clayton's wife is the B in WMB, and it owns CSC. Clayton's father-in-law served the CSC's CSC CEO in all these years. They shared the same address, multiple owners, Goldman Sachs. Yeah, let's not dive too deep. Sometimes you gotta stick with just the surface piece of information. Santiago also said, "What an amazing hypocrite. He brought the case against Ripple one day before retiring. Like a couple days before retiring, I believe. Retiring, knowing full well SEC had a good chance of losing on Howie prongs." At all to support insiders, his audacity is incomprehensible because now he's being a hypocrite by saying that Gary Gensler is suing too much. It's funny, but the SEC is one big shit show, and you guys know it, but that's about it. Guys, make sure you join the Discord. Links down below. That's one. And second of all, make sure you put the notification bell on. This is very important. If you've got the notification bell on, whenever something crazy happens, at least you are notified. That's the most important piece. You can always decide to not click on it. You can always decide, I should be higher up. You can always decide to ignore the notification. But you can never get that time back. So make sure you put it on. And that's about it. See you guys again in another crypto video, hopefully somewhere later today.